Hey fellas, Crackety here. Japan is an incredibly interesting civilization in Age of Empires 4. Although, being one of the best civilizations on hybrid or water maps, they tend to struggle a lot when it comes to their standing on land maps. Today, I will be showing you a build order for the Japanese that makes use of their unique unit, the Onna Bugeisha, in Feudal Age to keep your opponents on their toes, deny pro scouting, and later on swarm their base with units either during a Feudal Age all-in push or in later stages of the game after denying resources on the map and raiding your foe's economy. Do be careful though, this strategy is not for beginners. In order to make full use of the Onna Bugeisha, you will need to perform well in both multitasking and micro, which is why I'm rating this strategy with a difficulty rating of 5 out of 5 stars. Nonetheless, it can be incredibly fun to surround your opponent with mobile infantry, so I definitely recommend that you do test this out, should Japan as a civilization be interesting to you. So, let's go over the build order. Starting us off, our first 6 villagers will be gathering food from our sheep, while our first produced villager will go and build a forge on gold. As there isn't too much going on in the early game, one thing I do recommend is using your villagers on food to kill off your starting sheep. If you don't do this, you will use all villagers for the kill animation of a single sheep, causing a little bit of idle time there, so best to just get rid of that at the beginning. Villager number 8 now builds a farmhouse on the berries and stays there to minimize walking time even without upgrading to Wara. We will grab that one at a later point in time. Villager number 9 will be sent to gold, number 10 onto food, and number 11 will be sent to gold for last time in the Dark Age, so we will end up with 3 villagers gathering gold in Dark Age. Upon having enough resources to age up, you can select 4 villagers from sheep to age up with the Kura storehouse. Acting as a resource drop-off building and being able to garrison up to 4 villagers inside of it, I recommend using it as a lumber camp replacement, saving you a bit of wood and keeping your lumberjack safe. The Kura storehouse periodically spawns farms around it, and once it's done, generates wood instead, at a slower pace. This equates to roughly 90 resources per minute worth of farms during the first 10 minutes of Feudal Age, making it a very strong landmark scaling-wise when comparing it to other resource-generating landmarks in Feudal Age. Which is something we will need since we are going to be making lots and lots of units in this age. During Age Up, send 3 villagers to wood, while never having less than 4 villagers on food to keep up villager production. Japan have received a recent buff to their barracks cost, now only costing 75 wood, so you won't need much more wood income during Age Up to be able to drop your first barracks. Once 3 villagers are gathering wood, you can send new villagers to gather food from the sheep underneath the TC. During your Age Up, you can also go ahead and research the tower from your forge, giving your units +1 melee damage already. Since Onna Bugeisha scale really well with melee damage, you will most definitely grab this and its follow-up upgrade, Hisakuri, as soon as possible. These upgrades have also recently been buffed, making the whole process a lot smoother compared to previous seasons. Once your Age Up is completed, send 3 of the 4 villagers that build your landmark to wood, and the 4th to the first farm spawned by the Kura storehouse. Don't forget additional villagers should be sent to gather up food. You will also want to make sure not to get housed, as you will now start producing a lot of units. Delay Tawara until you feel like you can comfortably research it without impeding your Onna Bugeisha production or population cap. As soon as we gather up 50 stone, as mentioned, we can now grab Hisakuri while keeping constant uptime on our barracks producing Onna Bugeisha. Since Onna Bugeisha and barracks are quite cheap, you should add more barracks on occasion to be able to flood out tons of units. Remember, your Onna Bugeisha with 2 melee damage upgrades attack once every 0.9 seconds with an increased attack range for 8 damage, meaning they absolutely shred all units without melee armor. However, at such an early point in the game, your opponent more than likely will not have a blacksmith of their own, so without the additional armor, you can even do a lot of damage to units that are armored in Feudal Age, like knights, Sofa, Keshiks, or even men-at-arms. An exception to the rule, however, is the Ayubit Desecrator with 5 base armor in Feudal Age, so I recommend mixing in horsemen or Yumi archers when facing off against the Ayubits instead. Mobility is key with the Onna Bugeisha. At 1.5 tiles per second movement speed, they are the fastest infantry unit in the game. Horsemen are significantly faster, but as they lack melee armor, Onna Bugeisha absolutely shred them, so you don't have to be scared when it comes to taking fights against them. Archers will do bonus damage against you and can somewhat kite effectively. However, once you reach them, you can still absolutely destroy them as they lack any melee armor. Engage on archers if they're out of position and you have enough units, otherwise try to steer clear of them and raid economy spots in your opponent's base where they are not present. Behind this, your economy will look very solid. Thanks to your military presence on the map, you should have enough map control to be able to gather from berries once your sheep run out, which will be incredibly efficient due to your Tawara and Takesaiku upgrade in Feudal Age. Once you have enough stone, upgrade your main TC to the Daimyo Manor. This will allow you to produce a bannerman, further boosting up the damage of Onna Bugeisha, making them even more deadly. If your opponent starts overly relying on mass archers, then it's time to start massing up samurai. This will be your frontline unit. Mass up enough of them, and you will even be able to dive your opponent's base should they try and go for a castle age up behind this. Did your push fail? No worries, as long as you did some damage, you should be fine. Your army is cheap to reproduce, and mobility should still be in your favor. You can slowly transition to castle age while still making units, keeping up pressure on your opponent with raiding forces. Once you get your own technologies up in Castle Age, you will once again be able to lead a formidable army against your opponent to take them down. Let's check out a game played on the ladder with this build. In the game showed here, I was up against Lucifron playing as a Chinese on Cliffside. As described, after age up, we start massing up Onna Bugeisha to pressure our opponent's gold resources and in the case of China, try and deny them from pro scouting. While we weren't able to fully deny him his own deer as he immediately switched into archers, we were able to contest our own deer, so even though he has a lot of food in his base underneath his mill, he won't be able to do ours on top of it. Seeing our opponent rely heavily on archers, we start mixing in samurai into our army composition, so should our opponent age up, we will have a much tankier frontline to be able to dive his base with. As his age up comes through, we are sending our samurai in head first up against the archers to chase them away from our Onna Bugeisha, while they are out on the hunt for villager kills. We managed to get a great surround on some of the villagers, taking them down in the process. As the archers try to catch up to our Onna Bugeisha, they find themselves out of position, allowing us the opportunity to take them out. Thus keeping our opponent's military count small, meaning that even if he does have a technology advantage, with enough units, we will still be in a position to take them down. While all of this was going on, our opponent was forced to idle a lot of his economy, which is reflected by his income per minute. So far so good, we are in a decent spot when it comes to map control, and while we do need to respond to some night raids, the majority of the map is under our control, allowing us to move out onto berries and secure resources on the map. Now, we could think about an age up now, but instead, we keep rallying more and more Onna Bugeisha just in case our opponent tries to push out. This also allows us to split our army into multiple groups, harassing him on opposing fronts, which is very tough to deal with as his crossbows move very slowly. We go for another dive here, which honestly wasn't really necessary. I should have probably focused more on just getting the age up in and only occasionally showing my troops to cause idle time, but we do manage to take down some units here and there and just overall disrupt our opponent's economy transition away from deer, which do start to run low, while our own economy is looking very solid. From here on out, the game actually does slow down a fair bit for a couple moments, as we are busy chasing after a couple of knights inside our own base, while aging up to Castle Age. Lucifron also manages to start his own farm transition now, and even gets up to Imperial Age with the Great Wall Gatehouse, meaning that we will need to go up to Imperial Age ourselves if we want to be able to eventually dive his base again. Which, looking at the economy, is very much okay for us, as at this point, we are pretty much constantly population capped anyways. So the age up and the first couple of upgrades come in. Our Onna Bugeisha now deal 14 damage before elite army tactics with a bannerman nearby. We know where our opponent's food economy is and have a couple of Onna Bugeishas positioned nearby to be able to build a ram and put on pressure on our opponent. Do note that by now the second TC of our opponent has very much paid off for itself and he is currently 5 economy units ahead, but military wise we are still in a very competitive spot. There's also no more gold behind Lucifron's base, meaning he needs to move out onto the map, and while he does manage to secure the middle with the stone wall and a keep for the moment, that is not really enough against the huge infantry ball that we have at the moment. With our ram finally breaking through the top stone wall and Oda tactics finishing, our Onna Bugeisha now deals 16 damage with every strike, so that even armored units like elite palace guards did no chance against them. Behind this, we are continuously forcing idle time with additional troops at different spots, making it very hard for our opponent to secure a stable economy. At this point, the gold denial really comes into play, as Imperial Age upgrades are quite costly and Lucifron had to delay them for a good while as a result of our raids. An outpost that we managed to sneak up next to his farms now also starts taking down a lot of economy units. With all of this pressure coming in, we now also redeem tickets from our gunsmith landmark for free bombards, allowing us to take down his keep in the middle. Without any access to gold and his military infrastructure about to be taken down, we managed to end the game here. So, to summarize, the Onna Bugeisha excels as a raiding or an open field battle unit. Massing them up can catch your opponent off guard when they believe to have a strong enough army to deal with yours. Your economy scales very well even while being behind in age, as your food economy does not rely on age up for scaling, but rather your current TC level does. There are a few matchups where an adjustment to your army composition will be needed, mainly Abbasid and Ayyubids. Once you get a large enough death ball going, it will be tough for your opponent to keep their villagers safe while the Onna Bugeishas chase them down. With all of that said, I hope you enjoyed this build order for the Japanese civilization in Age of Empires 4. Check out my YouTube channel for more content like this, and I hope I will see you again in the next one. Cheers!